There's a trade war underway, and it's unclear as to why, but the trade war has started with these tariffs. And I say trade war, I mean the real intensity of the war has yet to be determined, but it's Canada, Mexico, and China. A group of Democrats calling on Trump to retract the tariffs, but here was their letter. They sent it last week. As members of the House and Ways and Means Committee, I'll just give you a sentence of it. We urge you to retract your order for across-the-board tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico before they go into effect. Your use of tariffs as a bargaining chip to settle non-trade issues is counterproductive to the goal of revitalizing manufacturing and bringing back American jobs. The well-being of American workers, families, and businesses should never be gambled for the sake of scoring political points. I mean, that's great. That's, from a bunch of Democratic congresspeople. But there are 25% tariffs that do appear to be slapped on Mexico, Canada, and China. I'm really unclear on what concessions Trump hopes to get. There was that back and forth where Trump was crowing about concessions that were given to him that were already in place, the 10,000 troops at the border, et cetera. You know the deal. So I'm unclear as to what he wants now. It does feel, and there's a lot of the Trump world that is this, as I've told you, it's kind of an oversized masculinity. It's like a toxic masculinity. There's a lot of Trump world that's about a flex. They just flex for some reasons that just have to do with, I want to show you I'm the most powerful man on earth. That's why the Gulf of America, I mean, that stuff, it just doesn't matter. It's just a silly flex. And then when you get to the tariffs, you get to an important flex because you can really throw markets into a tailspin that way. And in the background, lurking, are the tax cuts. And he wants to find ways to fund those tax cuts. So on some level, there may be connective tissue between those two things. Meantime, Trump quietly firing watchdog overseers in his government. Hampton Dellinger is the head of the Office of Special Counsel of the Justice Department. He was fired, but now he's fighting back with a lawsuit. Isn't that right, Kim? He was in charge of overseeing whistleblower complaints against the government and enforcing the laws meant to tamp down undue political influence in American politics.
Yeah, and he's the guy that roots out corruption in the government.
Exactly. And he was
the Trump administration said, you're out.
He was fired via email. And again, he's gotten rid of the inspectors general, and he, for the most part.
Yeah.
And now he gets rid of this guy. And then I believe, largely maybe as a result of this court case, there was an attempt to get him back into government. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, the judge said, you can't fire that guy. You got to rehire him now.
So the judge has unfired the very guy that Trump had fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The judge says to Trump, terminated ethics watchdog, you are unfired now. So Hampton Dellinger wins an order allowing him to remain in his job, but only for now. We'll see if he can survive the Trump administration and their efforts to root him out.
The last thing I'll just mention in regards to things coming out of the Oval Office is related to, I've called them these flexes because I think that's sort of what's happening. It all falls into that category, but some of them are dramatic and hugely consequential. And what I mean by that is, for example, the statements on Gaza. I mean, the Gaza statements were so absurd that there was a kind of a beginning of walking them back the next day, even by Trump. I'm not sure that I'm not saying that American troops are going to be there, but I'm just saying that we have plans for that area. So, and then, of course, he did double down. He leaned into it in the Bret Baier interview. He said, no, I'm talking about this piece of land that could be something special, and it's been, destroyed now, but we could make it into, and he even said, you have to look at this like a real estate development deal. It's like,
I think he looks at everything like a real estate deal.
well, the Saudis are furious as a result of this. Basically, the entire world isn't good with this. But the reason the Saudis are important is because they're in the region, as are the Jordanians. And of course, he's meeting with the King of Jordan, I think, today, and the Egyptians as well. Those are just a handful of the parties who would be directly involved in any kind of relocation, which is, again, I don't see any of this happening, but it's talked about by Trump. And you also have the UAE and all of the other Middle Eastern countries that are, I'm sure, appalled, and they cannot, given the relationship of those governments to the street, to the Arab street, they cannot be signatories to anything like this. It is way, way reckless. But it's not only that. The Danes are scrambling, as is noted. I mean, around this Greenland thing. Colombia backed down from the first week of the administration. There is unclear development in the trade war with Mexico and China, as I said, and the stuff that Trump is doing is worrying even the Brits, which is a country with a special relationship with the United States. So, as is noted here, everyone, it seems, is responding to Trump. Even Australia's leader, when asked last week for his thoughts only a few hours after Trump had announced the U.S. would take over the decimated Gaza Strip and turn it into, quote, the Riviera of the Middle East, he said this, but listen to how guarded the guy is. He said, I'm not going to, as Australia's prime minister, give a daily commentary on statements by the U.S. president. Like he's trying to, everybody wants to stay at arm's length with this guy. Acknowledged publicly or not, world leaders are watching Trump's wood chipper approach to some American government institutions and wondering about those of the post-Cold War order. What of the U.S. roles in NATO, the United Nations, the World Bank? On U.S.-controlled NATO, Trump has long questioned the value of the pact and threatened not to defend members of the alliance that failed to meet defense spending goals. On his first day back in the Oval Office, Trump began to pull the United States out of the World Health Organization, an act that would leave the UN agency without its biggest donor. WHO leaders huddled over a response and asked diplomats to lean on Washington to reverse Trump's decision. A German envoy worried out loud, the roof is on fire. Trump's actions portend a permanent shift in the landscape. This is a quote, not just a switch that flips back in 4 years' time. That's according to a political and international affairs expert in London. Outside of leadership circles, anyone who depends on the U.S. for aid, food, and medicine is coming to grips with the life and death implications of not having it after Trump's drive to dismantle USAID and its 6-decade mission to stabilize countries by providing humanitarian aid. The Vatican charity voiced outrage Monday at what it called unhuman U.S. plans to gut USAID. Emboldened by his re-election and with help from presidential friend Elon Musk, Trump has unleashed his signature chaos by distraction on the entire world. And it goes on. This is a lengthy piece that talks about the flooding the zone, the entire policy, which is some distraction, some flex, as I say, some, I'd suggest, kind of a knee-jerk response to what he just may have heard in the hallway. He's quite untethered right now. And I don't know what the results will be. I really don't.
Well, this is what America wanted. This is what America voted for. And according to the CBS YouGov poll that Tony and I looked at yesterday, 53% approval rating for Trump. It's a pretty high one. And so America seems happy with the way things are progressing.
I don't know also how much America knows. You know, I'm always curious about that. I get that every little thing moves the meter on this show. I think most people aren't that way. Look, there are people here who are regulars within our community going, I got to get away from politics for a while. I mean, that's perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what Trump wants. And that's exactly what the Project 2025 people want and Bannon wants. You flood the zone, people are overwhelmed, they're fatigued, they just give up. That's exactly the plan. So, again, we reported here a lot of this stuff we don't get to because there is so much. But eventually, I hope that we at least shed enough light on things that, you understand what's happening. And then, hey, man, if you want, if it's not, I have Trumpies in my family. I have Trumpies who I work with. I mean, I get it, Do you know why USAID is so important? Asked Deirdre Lozica. There's a reason we do not have an outbreak of Ebola and other viruses running amok on American shores. Right. Such a great comment. Mm-hmm. It's funny how we have this view of terrorism, like get them over there so that, before they get them, we get it over here. But we can't seem to understand that when it comes to global health and just the basics of global health. And by the way, it's socioeconomic health too. I mean, raise those communities up so that you don't end up with the disintegration of society in so many different places in the world.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.